All right, folks, people, the guy, Pat, he wants a segment. So yes, this is going to be called Matt Whines. And there's the visual pun there. Let's get a little ASMR going. And today's chosen topic is going to be Rugrats, the cartoon. It's the reason I'm choosing this is not because we're going to do some sort of only 90s kids remember nostalgia bullshit. We're going to talk about more broadly the idea of when it is appropriate or ideal for an idea to die. Now, the reason I bring up Rugrats in that regard is just simply because it's anecdotal. Now, this is not going to be, you can look up the oral history of Rugrats. You can find exhaustive research on this cartoon. It was a big hit, as most of you will probably know. So this is all anecdotal evidence on my part as emblematic, cheers, of a phenomenon in which greed and money keep something on life support until it is a hollowed out corpse shell of itself. The examples include Joe Biden's presidency. Whoa, hey, we don't get political. No, but seriously, folks. This cartoon was something that was important to me when I was a child, and it was something that I found to be very... It spoke to me. It resonated with me. In a way, I think it resonated with a lot of people because it was very, very popular. Okay? Klasky Csupo, I don't know how to say the cartoonist people's name, were kind of a big deal, cutting edge little animation outfit there. They, I believe, were working on some of the early Simpsons stuff. Csupo, apologies for the name. Klasky Csupo. Klasky Csupo. Csupo? Whatever. You know, he was involved in Duckman and Real Monsters. I know one of the animators on the show, I believe, did some stuff for Liquid Television, like Aeon Flux. You know, and this was the early era of Nickelodeon, which again has been exhaustively analyzed by people of my general age group as some kind of golden era. And again, ignoring all that, Rugrats specifically was clearly a product of somebody's passion. And I think that you watch that passion become literally rounded off at the edges and turned into a nondescript blob. And eventually it just died, ignobly, ignominiously. Oh man, we're drinking a Scopa Pinot Grigio. I don't know anything about wine. So this was a project that was given to Klasky Csupo early on in the Nicktoons era, I believe. And the first episode I remember so clearly. I believe I started watching it when it aired for maybe a season or two, and then I think it like went on hiatus, but the reruns were so popular with, you know, stoned college students, which is a great, that's the demographic you want to capture if you've got yourself a kind of a crossover hit. And they brought it back by popular demand, essentially. And I would get so excited when this show was on when I was a kid. Mind you, I was a baby myself. I was about like 5 or 6 years old. That I would always tell my mom when it was on. And of course, she didn't give a shit, but I don't know. I think it's cute to mention that. Oh God. What this show did was, not only did it reflect my reality in a very sort of magical time in my life, it also didn't feel pandering because it was unsettling. The cartoons, the babies were ugly and lumpy. Everyone was kind of lumpy. There was Mark Mothersbaugh music playing, you know, of Devo fame. The first episode that aired on television was literally a fever dream, kind of psychedelic fever dream, where Tommy is sick and his parents are literally planets orbiting around him as his world kind of morphs and shifts with like no dialogue. But what I liked was that the babies, you know, you had all kinds of babies. You know, you had two parallel realities. There was the babies with their own prelingual language and their imaginative capacity to kind of recreate the world around them, and then they were kind of existing in relation to the parallel real world of their parents, who represented, you know, a decent swath of various kind of archetypes and dynamics. You know, you had Stu. He was a semi-depressed, failed inventor and toy maker, a frustrated creative tinkering away in his basement, always trying to put Pickles toys on the map. They had a live-in-home grandfather, patriarch figure who was always a little bit disappointed in his son, always a little bit proud, who was antagonistic and kind of horny in a similar vibes to Master Roshi. You had Dee Dee, the wife, who was, and this is directly from, I believe, one of the animators or the voice actor of Dee Dee saying she tried to channel her overbearing Jewish mother. And, you know, you have Stu living in the shadow or competitive sort of relation to his older brother and his wife, who were both a power corporate couple who were raising basically the main antagonist of the show, Angelica, a spoiled young girl who I guess is still young enough to speak to the babies. The language stuff is unclear, and we'll get to that later, because basically I saw this show at a time when my imagination I was in full swing, I believe, where, you know, even in the tiny little bubble that was your life, my life, you know, there were these unfathomable things going on with these parents who were these giant people who were just doing inscrutable acts and like demanding things of you occasionally. But it was also, and I think what spoke to me and resonated with me was the babies were all like able to see the world kind of as it was. They would never lose sight of reality, but they were able to kind of, with their minds and imaginations, transform it into a larger and stranger place. You know, a skill that a lot of people try and like spend a lot of time getting back to. There was an edge to it, okay? The world wasn't nice. Chucky's mom was dead. She was fucking dead, and you never really figured out why. I don't remember if you did or not. You know? Like, where is Grandpa Pickles' wife? What happened there? You know, Phil and Lil's mom and dad had some sort of sub-dom thing going on. You know, it's not hard to imagine that little, like, beta guy getting his you know, his just being crushed between two sweaty thighs. You know what I'm saying? Not to get gross. I'm so sorry. But, sorry, back on topic. The whole point of this segment, Matt whines. Let's get it clean. Let's get it clean. It's a pure tone. Is when an idea should die. There's a reason this show became then the most popular property Nickelodeon had until then seen. And I believe held the title of maybe the longest running cartoon until SpongeBob, another Nickelodeon property that arguably has met the same or a similar fate, took its place. And it's that the death knell of this was a decent amount of time into when the babies and this show, which they didn't even want to call it Rugrats. I mean, there was really no confidence in this. And when there is not a ton of confidence, there is merely people who believe in the creative force of people who have proven themselves with other things and have done so enough times in order to get this kind of like beautiful, clean slate in which to create their own thing. But then money comes into it. And it always ruins it. It always ruins it, dude. It always fucking ruins it, man. It was the first thing I was disappointed in. That's not true. But Rugrats. These weird lumpy babies, this kind of minotaur world, very, very threatening, not cute. And these parents, they were negligent. They would always fucking leave. They were always obsessed with their own problems. There were always these kind of like off-color jokes for adults. But then something happened, and it was the popularity of the show. And now I kind of probably was only watching, if I'm being realistic, the first 4 seasons. But it was like a double episode. Each episode contained 2. All kinds of great ones out there. The Rugrats Passover is a huge one that people love. But as it started to catch on, it started to lose things as people, not the main artists, started to like become more involved, and there were merchandising possibilities. And I went and saw Rugrats the movie. The first indicator that things were taking a dire and incorrect turn. That show probably should have stopped before there was ever a movie. Although I don't fault the instinct to create a film. The film was indicative, though not the most egregious example, of how far Rugrats could fall. And I Exhibit A, Dil Pickles. The babies were already starting to be animated more cute. They were literally getting rounded off and becoming just more like rounded and cute and approachable. They looked like they had tumors all over their body. They looked fucking ugly. But they became cutified. This happened to SpongeBob as well. Okay? Literally rounding the edges off things. Literally making everything more palatable and less threatening in the language of animation, which is like spiky is evil and rounded is mellow and nice. It's visual language. And you include Dil Pickles. Get it? Dil Pickles. His name's Dil because it wasn't a joke before. It was just like a funny name, but now they're literally going for pickles puns. So that sucks. Like, what the oh, Dil? Why would they, in the logic of the show, they would know that Dil was, ugh. And Dil didn't make any sense, right? You don't need to introduce more. This is the problem, right? You get this dynamic that goes, and you want to build on it, but you need to think about it. And Dil is a baby, technically, but he is the pre-verbal language. So he's not able to speak. He's incapable of speaking to Tommy, and he's a baby to them, to the babies. Doesn't make any sense. And he just kind of needs stuff. Also, in the movie, they put them out in this like place where they're like in the woods. They're like they're in danger. There's like weird circus monkeys after them. The whole point was they didn't need to go somewhere far-fetched or actually dangerous a lot of the time in order to have a fantastical experience. That was part of the charm, okay? They're babies. The world is this insane, nonsensical, huge place full of potential, and also somehow bends to the wills and imaginations of the children themselves. And now they're like literally lost in the woods, and there's fucking wolves and apes trying to get them. And the parents are like extra negligent feeling in this one, and it's just like you're losing the sense, right? You've got this joke baby named Dil, and you've got this setting where they're trying to ratchet up the intensity, but it's missing the point that they could have an entire adventure in their backyard. This is what Pat wants. He needs a segment. Here's your content, bro. Now, I'm going to be level with you. I didn't watch Rugrats Go to Paris. But I did check in on the show after the Fat film came out. And then the other problem was that then we had Vicky, and Chucky's dad remarried and adopted a kid, didn't adopt a wife, but he remarried. And here's another problem: people's problems started getting solved. Okay? Chucky's dad should stay single. He needs to stay single. It matches his character. Nervous guy. Kind of like Rick Moranis from Honey, I Shrunk the Kids if he was a cartoon. And Chucky with all his allergies and shit. So funny. Phil and Lil, competitive twins. So not only are they getting cute, but there's this expectation now that problems will be solved and people will get to feel good. That everything's fine. The babies are cute and shit's fine now. It's not weird. It's not kind of trippy. There's no danger out there. There's no edge. And I kind of fell off at this point. I outgrew the show. It was on for longer than I was of an age to give a shit about it any longer. But it was a show that was begging for a death long before it was allowed to die. And I think things go on like this all the time. Things that are popular and therefore get kicked along the road until they're shit, and then viewership drops off, and then they're canceled. There's no sense of closure. Once the money gets in, once you can sell 1 million plush Rugrats and play the Rugrats video game, once you can ruin something that was created in a spark of inspiration by vanguard artists, people that were like, people like Bill Plimpton's and people like this. That's when you had these weird people with some edge that went to art school and were inspired by like 70s weird comics and R. Crumb and, Zippy the Pinhead and fucking Crazy Cat. Now you had just these cutified, highly marketable, pale echoes of what used to be these bizarre and very unique things. Completely, at this point, I think, headed by a new creative team. It's like going to see, an iteration of a musical, like 30 musical casts out from what was the good one, the canonical one. And this stuff happens all the time because you can wring value out of it. You can wring value out of it until you have a gray, flavorless, lifeless IP that you can then just sort of lock away in a cell, and maybe you can revivify it if you're extra greedy, or if you have some sort of visionary who's willing to lend his own, creative life force and fire to it, a la Alan Moore with Swamp Thing or whatever. And let me get to my final damning example, and it's the fucking Rugrats all growed up. The last ditch effort It was the last ditch effort to take something nice, but that was already dead, and ruin it and lose the spirit of the thing. The final dumb idea, which is to make the Rugrats teenagers. Okay? We'd already had them go to Paris. Chucky had a sister and a mom. They went to Reptar Land. They already had a crossover episode, which you know is a sort of swan song for anybody, with the fucking with the wild thornberries. Okay, now they're in like the fucking Serengeti. Serengeti. Look, I'm quarantined. I'm not a smart man. I don't have much to think about. So I think about how a beautiful thing can rot as it's just kept on life support. This reminds me of how people are kept alive for too for too long. Okay? There's an over-medicalization, and there's a beauty and finitude in death. And that's what so many, this is the irony, is that so many cartoons, not even cartoons, so many creative pursuits, so many creations, so many intellectual properties, to put it sterilely. The irony is they gain popularity through their novelty, their innovation, their resonance emotionally with wide swaths of people. And then they start to get that money train rolling, and it won't stop until you have an exhausted, shaking echo. And Rugrats All Grown Up is clearly the last fucking disgusting cash grab, dumb, totally missing the point effort of Nickelodeon to just absolutely misinterpret what needed to happen there, which is that the show should fucking end. When is it enough? When does Bill Gates have enough money and not want to microchip us? So Rugrats All Grown Up. Now they're in middle school, I think. They're teenagers. What the fuck do you think I want? You think I want a fucking storyline about how Tommy is thinking about jerking off? You think I want to hear about how his grandfather might die? What is this, Doonesbury? Sickening. They're babies. That is the conceit. Their children is from the perspective and sort of alien but magical world of a child's viewpoint that gave that show any kind of spark to begin with. It was initially the creative notion. I believe it was Klasky, award-winning female illustrator, who had a child who she wondered and knew had an entire interior mental world that she was imagining herself. It was creating a childlike sense of wonder in herself. And now they're 14 years old. And they're talking about dating. And whether or not they're going to get a good fucking grade on their history test. End things where they should end. Know when to bow out gracefully and search for something new. And don't become a disgusting, sad zombie of your former self because there's money in it. That's the end of my fucking whining. That's the Matt Whines. I hope you liked it. Okay? God damn it. I hope you guys enjoyed. Stay safe out there. Fuck! God damn it. How does this work? How do you turn this off? Is it this? I can't even figure out how to do this.